Hello Nigerians, it's nice to meet you again on Beyond the Headlines. Imagine you as a citizen waking up to find your state government suspended, its leaders removed, and a federal administrator stepping in to take charge. This is the reality for Rivers State following President Tinubu's declaration of state of emergency. The announcement made during a nationwide broadcast has sparked debates about governance, constitutional powers, and the future of democracy in Nigeria. In his address, President Tinubu cited the breakdown of law and order in Rivers State as the reason for his decision. He pointed out political instability, governance failures, and security threats, including pipeline vandalism, as evidence of a crisis requiring extraordinary measures. As a result, the governor, deputy governor, and state assembly members were suspended for 6 months, with a retired vice admiral appointed as the state's administrator. But what does the law say about such a move? Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution grants the President the power to declare a state of emergency under specific conditions. These include natural disasters or breakdown of law, public order, and threatens national security. The President must also consult with the National Assembly, which has the authority to approve or reject the proclamation. In this case, Tinubu invoked the provision, arguing that the situation in Rivers State met the constitutional threshold for emergency action. However, President Tinubu's action has opened a flurry of differing colorations. Now, joining me to discuss this extraordinary and historic development is DDM News analyst Ibrahim Umawase. You're welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, this, we might not call it an unprecedented action because it has happened a lot of times, a number of times in the past under the administration of Goodluck Jonathan. 2013, twice in 2013 when he declared a state of emergency in 3 northern states because of Boko Haram insurgency. And again, under the administration of Olusegun Obasanjo, that also happened. But given the circumstances surrounding the current one, we might say that this one is somewhat unprecedented or unusual. But before I go further, what's your reaction to this?
Actually, I was not surprised. As you rightly said, I saw it coming because the fighting had been ongoing between Wiki and his godson, Fubara, for years. I think immediately after he won that seat of the governor of Rivers State, after inauguration, they started that saga between the two of them. And the reason unknown to many, but a lot of assumptions, people think is due to power, grabble, and so on and so forth. So I was not surprised when I saw that Fubara was impeached indirectly, or state of emergency was declared in Rivers State, because a day before the proclamation by the president, his godfather, Nyesom Wike, mentioned it in an interview that if he resigned, if they impeach him, heaven will not fall. So I was not surprised. I know it's definitely on the cards.
All right, thank you very much, Ibrahim. Now, I want to point out 3 important dimensions because the president made a proclamation based on what he felt was happening in Rivers State that needed an urgent attention. But what he did could, like I told you in my introduction, that it opened a flurry of agreements, disagreements, perspectives. But from what I observed, I pointed out 3 things. There are 3 dimensions to this. The first one could be called the legal dimension. The legal dimension, which has to do with the constitutional basis for that action. Then the second one is the political dimension, which focuses on the president's personal interest and how he intends to extend the power base or his influence to maintain power, especially in regard to the 2027 election. And then we have the final one, which I call the functionalist dimension. This views the declaration as a necessary action to restore order in Rivers State, and then to provide good governance. Now let's start with the first one, the legal dimension, which the president acted upon. He quoted or he invoked Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution. do you think that this very constitutional aspect of, or this provision, or this maxim in the Constitution clearly gives the President the full mandate or empowerment to declare what he did yesterday? Do you think it clearly stipulates?
All right. Responding to that question, I must remind our viewers that I'm not a legal practitioner. So I'm going to look at it from the point I understand it. Whether or not there is a constitutional provision that gives the President the right to declare a state of emergency anywhere in the country, that's not how I'm looking at it. You know, law in itself, litigation in itself, is the peaceful way of resolving conflicts. So, and we learn in our elementary school logic that conflicts is inevitable in life. So as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I expected him to be someone who will bring the two parties involved and make sure that he resolves the conflict rather than escalating it. And going by what the President did, everyone is clear to the blind and audible to the deaf that he escalated the situation rather than solving it. Why did I say so? The President is in a full knowledge of the perpetrators of the violence, which he, in his proclamation, he mentioned only one and pretended not to know the second one, which brought the question, the attentions of people. Is there justice? And law is something that must be evenly applicable to both parties. He keep on calling Similaye, but I understand that he was the governor of Rivers State, but you need to call all the parties involved as the leader, not just one side. If you suspend the governor of Rivers State, what about the FCT minister who is just close to you? You appointed him as the minister of FCT. So he's supposed to have an even share, because everyone knows that they are the two parties in that clash that causes everything in the state. And going by history, like I think there was two incidents prior to this one. 2013 by the government of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, and 2006, yes, 2006, Olusegun Obasanjo's government. But let's look at them critically, because to understand what is happening currently, there is a wisdom in understanding the historical context. So during the course of 2013, when Goodluck Jonathan declared a state of emergency in 3 states of Adamawa, Yobe, and Borno State. At the time, the governor, the current vice president of the country, was the governor of Borno State at the time, and Ibrahim Gaidam was the governor of Yobe State, and Murtala Inyaku was the governor of Adamawa State. At the time, the same president, the president we have today, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, criticized the government of Goodluck Jonathan, and he even asserted that they are emasculating the power of the governors in the state. And by the way, President Goodluck Jonathan did not suspend the governors at the time. So I just need to see consistency in someone's action. When there is no consistency, then it begins to just be like an elaborate mirage, whereby you are saying one thing and doing the other thing. That's what Machiavelli called an effective truth. If what you said is going in harmony with your action, then you definitely stand for what you're saying. But if what you're saying is contrary to your action, then you are not truthful at all. So the president, if at all he cares for the life and livelihood of Nigerians, I think there are states that are going through a worse situation in the country of insecurity, of chaos, of violence. Why didn't he declare state of emergency in this state rather than Rivers State? Because the situation in Rivers State, I personally believe, has not deteriorated to that stage of suspending a governor. Because states like most states in northeastern part of Nigeria and northwestern part of Nigeria are going through a worse situation. Why won't he declare state of emergency in such a state? That's my question.
From what I got from what you said, it is very clear that the Constitution does not empower him to do that. Because, okay, let's read a few sentences from what that part of the Constitution says, Section 305, I mean to say, says that the Constitution empowers the President to declare a state of emergency only when Nigeria is at war, when the country is in an imminent danger of invasion or involvement in a state of war, and when there is a breakdown of public order and public safety in any part of the country. I think this borders a little on what is happening in Rivers State, because even in the President's address, he said very clearly that he, at some point, invited the parties involved and then asked them to resolve their conflict. And he intervened at some point, but these parties ignored him. And some other mediators did the same thing. They ignored what was happening. So after looking at what was happening, he found that, and he also mentioned that some people that belong to the tribal group, which the governor belonged to, which is a job, they threatened to vandalize the pipelines, to cause mayhem in the state. So don't you think that this is enough grounds to declare a state of emergency? That is one. Then two, you almost slided into the political dimension, but I was talking about the first
legal dimension.
Yeah. Now, an important consideration or concern, again, is that the Constitution says that before you declare a state of emergency, it must be approved by a two-third majority of both houses of the National Assembly, the Senate and the House of Representatives. But that is clearly not in place. President Tinubu snubbed the National Assembly. He first of all applied his own interest, his own will. He did it, and because he said that the decree was in effect from yesterday, 18th of March. So that also is a clear indication that he snubbed the Constitution. So don't you think that legally what the President did is unconstitutional? You cannot fight evil with evil. For you to fight evil, you first of all make sure that you cannot, there is this saying that he who is goes to equity must go with clean hands.
Clean hands, sure.
So the President, you cannot fight unconstitutionalism with illegality. No. So I think the President is wrong in the first place. So by terms of legal dimension, the President is supposed to have gotten the approval of the State House. And I also agree with what you said, because we had so many other states in which, in the Southeast, for example, in 2023, 2020, 2021, 2022, the whole of Southeast was hell. Insecurity was at its zenith in the Southeast. So why didn't the President or the federal government declare a state of emergency in the Southeast? Why Rivers State now? So for me, the legal dimension is zero. He should not have done that in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree with you on that. But the question of whether or not the President has the right to make the proclamation pending the approval of the National Assembly, I think is within the provision of the Constitution, he has the right to do that, because state of emergency is state of emergency. You do it pending the approval of the National Assembly. This is acceptable by the Constitution. If the condition has deteriorated the same way you put it, like if it is in its zenith. So I think he has that right to make the proclamation. But the thing we're supposed to look at is, I think, is it fair? Because as I said, laws needs to be enforceable. They need to be evenly applicable. So if there is unjust, unfair, and uneven application of laws, then the laws, people will start to wonder if truly the motive behind the laws are good or evil. So that's the point I'm looking at it. But I believe he has the provisional condition right to declare the state of emergency.
Now, there is another part of the Constitution that says, I think Section 11, Section 11, it says that when the House of Assembly of a state is experiencing a problem, the National Assembly can, within that capacity, take over the role or the responsibilities of the House of Assembly.
Yeah.
So this did not happen. Because there are so many explorations, there are so many avenues that the president could have explored
before yes, definitely, I agree with you, yes.
Nigeria is a very delicate country.
Sure.
So every little thing you do, people will look at it, interpret it, in certain ways that would not go well for the country. So you and I believe now that in terms of the legal dimension, there is an error in what the president did. Now let us move to the second dimension, which is the political dimension, which it is very, very clear that Rivers State is a PDP-led state. Now imagine an APC federal government imposing a state of emergency at will on a PDP-led state. And also, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, he is an Ikwere man. The Governor of Rivers State is from Ijo. Tinubu and Wike are birds of a feather. So how will people see it? How will people view it? There is a political undertone to it. Maybe Tinubu wants to, and again, I saw a picture on the internet where Tinubu, the current administrator, the administrator that the president has appointed to govern the situation in Rivers State. I saw a picture where he was having a handshake
with the president,
the FCT minister.
All right.
So don't you think that all this game, the whole situation was to, the whole idea behind it is that Tinubu is preparing to maintain power. Because Rivers State is like a swing state in the United States. It's one of the best states, one of the great states in terms of election. So Tinubu might be preparing for 2027 because he's so smart. So that was why he now utilized or capitalized on this situation in Rivers State and imposed state of emergency. What do you think about it? Definitely,
without a shadow of a doubt. Tinubu won 12 states during the course of 2023 election. Among the state, I think Rivers was among the states he won. And as you rightly said, Rivers State is a swing state, which means you can hardly predict who is going to win Rivers State. And traditionally, PDP is the state that has a gap in that state, Rivers State. So Tinubu has started feeling that maybe he's losing his own grab in most of northern states. There are a lot of influential figures from APC that are leaving the party to other parties. And for him to get that balance, he needs to counter them with state from southern part of Nigeria. And he thinks that maybe state from the Niger Delta and state from the southeastern part of Nigeria will give him that balance. So making sure that he holds Rivers State so strong will send a strong message. By the way, Rivers State is, I think, one of the 6 states with the highest number of registered votes in the country. So definitely they have the electoral currency. If you have Kano, Lagos, Kaduna, you definitely call Rivers before any other state in the country. So holding Rivers State is a strategic move for the APC to make sure that they cement their most of their strongholds, making sure that they win them back in 2027 and start thinking of the states that they fail to win. How can they get the votes there? Yeah. Most especially states like Lagos and Osun State. Yeah. You know, the best cards that Nigerian politicians play is the tribal card. So that's why people are are wondering whether Obi or Atiku are going to pull, if they will be on the ballot come 2027, are they going to pull Lagos and Osun State, which they won in 2023? So I think it's a very strategic move by the APC. That's why Tinubu didn't think twice about it to make the proclamation, because it will be in favor of his own political aspiration. And you know, our politicians, sadly, once they are sworn in office, they start thinking about the next election rather than the next generation. So it is clear now. He's just trying to cement his position. 2023, it was Nyesom Wike, his ally. Now the governor is not supporting him, which is a red flag for him, that he's not coming back to win the state again. So I'm not thinking that they are going to resolve that issue anytime soon, because Tinubu, even if they are going to resolve it, it will be based on dialogue, like diplomacy. You're going to give me this and I'm going to give you that. So definitely that's what's Tinubu is saying.
Beyond that, what you raised earlier, I'd like me to say that you were moving into the political dimension, was the situation of the absence of the FCT minister's name in Tinubu's address. I mean, that absence, it is conspicuous.
Sure.
Like what we call something being conspicuous by its absence. Because the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, is a critical stakeholder in this conflict. So why did the president, in his address, deliberately, I say deliberately, because you are the person that appointed him, and you have always known.
And he made it crystal clear that he is in the fight.
Exactly.
A day to the proclamation, he made it clear that if they impeach
all the blame
Fubara,
all the blame now was hit on Fubara. That he even called him a despot, because of his alleged disobedience or violation of Supreme Court order. So it is very important that this political dimension is very important, because this is where most people, I believe most people will be looking at. That Tinubu is not genuine, he's not honest by his declaration of state of emergency. Anyway, time will tell what happens. Let's move to the final dimension, which is the functionalist dimension. You and I know that some time ago, the Supreme Court restrained the federal allocation of River State, the monthly allocation, because of the alleged Fubara's disobedience of presenting the, 2025 budget to his House of Assembly. So because of that, the monthly allocation meant for the state has always been, since that time, disbanded and restrained. And then you ask yourself, when this happened, what then happened to the salaries of teachers? What then happens to the salaries of other civil servants
in the states?
Were they paid? Because we need this allocation in order to enforce or install good governance to the people.
Definitely.
So some people are saying, there are people that advocate for this functionalist dimension. They are saying that Tinubu was so smart that he had the feeling or the situation or the condition of the people at heart. That was why he smartly used this situation and imposed a state of emergency in order to use the other dimension and then transfer funds from the federal government back to River State without violating that Supreme Court order of restraining federal allocation. You know, if you listen to his broadcast, his state address yesterday, he said that the federal council will now take up the function of the government in River State. The administrator there, Admiral Ebas, will just serve as an administrative head, while the Federal Executive Council will make policies and decisions. Of course, funds will be transmitted. So, in terms of from the functionalist dimension or functionalist perspective, do you think that this declaration is a welcome development for the good governance in River State, for the people, teachers to be paid, for roads to be built, and all that?
No, definitely not. Because when Fubara turned down the Supreme Court's judgment when they stopped giving him the federal government allocations. He tried to have access to the State Assembly, which they locked the gates of that State Assembly.
Yes, yes.
So definitely it's not about the issue of presenting his budget to the state government. They just want to get rid of him. That's just the facts. They just want to get rid of him through every measure possible. And they have it. You have the president at your side. And the president that could literally say, power is not serve a la carte. You grab it, you run away. He can go extra mile in trying to achieve his own goals. By the way, Rivers State is a very, very strategic state as far as Nigerian democracy is concerned. But the question here is, where is the consistency in the process? If in other states, worse than this is happening, and you fail to declare state of emergency in those states, is vandalization of crude oil pipeline worth more than the life of people that are being lost on a daily basis? That's the question. In northern part of Nigeria, people are being killed on a daily basis. So if at all being just and being consistent, declare state of emergency in each and every state that any disorder is happening, then we'll agree that you're doing it for the interest of the larger society, not for your own personal interests. But it is clear, if you're going to look at it from a political, any lens of view, it is clear that it is politically motivated.
So the political dimension is superior to the other?
Any tool. There is no tool other than the political dimension.
All right. You have mentioned the legal.
Yes, definitely. There is no tool other than the political dimension. Because President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a Democrat. He knows this country more than any other person in Nigeria, because he has been in that system since 1993. He contested for the seat of senator 1993 and won, right? And he had been the governor of Lagos State from 1999 to 2007, right? So he understands the dynamics of the country, but he's someone that will never leave any stone unturned. That's how I'm looking at it. He just wants to get back to that office at all costs. And going by the fact that he won how many states in northern part of Nigeria? 7 states. He won only 5 states in southern part of Nigeria, which signified that the North voted for him. And now he has a serious problem with the northern political elites. And even the masses, going by the fact that the masses are already suffering. So they need no campaign that Tinubu fails them. And the political elites that maybe will cover his own garbage now are turning their backs at him, which signifies that he needs to cement his own stronghold, which is southern part of Nigeria. And in southern part of Nigeria, you also have political influencers, those who has genuine influence and genuine support of the people, organic support of the people like Peter Obi. So he knows that the game is very, very tough, and he just needs to be tough to get through it.
All right. Now, the Constitution says that the National Assembly must approve of this for it to be durable for that period of 6 months. Now, they are supposed to converge today and sit and deliberate, look at the situations, examine the proclamation to know whether it is, to know the veracity or the truthfulness
of the proclamation.
But what would you have the lawmakers do? Do you think they would approve of this?
100% no now. It's Nigeria. It's Nigeria. And by the way, most of this, the Senate President, the Speaker House of Representatives, these people, they can do anything for President Tinubu. It's no longer news. Everything he brings to them, they don't ask questions, they just implement it. So there is no question, they will implement it 100%. I have no doubt.
All right, I got what you said, but I watched an interview where Abaribe, the lawmaker representing Abia State, where he was asked some question, but he said that it was fallacy to think that because most members in the National Assembly and APC members, that they will now pander to the whim of President Tinubu. Is a fallacy. That because of that, they had the interest of the people, the national interest first, before their personal interest. What's your reaction to that?
They have their own national...
That is, in considering the proclamation made by the president,
yes.
that they will, first of all, put the interests of Nigerians, or the national interest first, before party interest. You know, you said earlier that I asked you earlier whether...
Yes, and I said they are going to approve it. Yes, I get you. The question is, when have they ever stood for Nigerians' interests? That's the question. They always say nice thing for the hearing eyes, for the hearing ears, but the reality is they will always stand for their personal interests. And politics is played behind closed doors. So you can't see what is happening now, because they will go and sit down with you and agree on things that you agree on the floor of the parliament. Nobody is aware of what they offer to you to approve something, a bill in the house. So it's kind of, you can only tell the people that doesn't understand politics that you always stands for the interests of Nigerians. But anyone who understand politics and the intricacies behind closed door, he knows that definitely the number one motive is your own personal interest before the interests of Nigerians. When President Bola Ahmed Tinubu removed the subsidy, which clearly affects the general populace, who among them stands against it? If they stand against it, then we'll have that belief that maybe they'll do the right thing today.
All right. I think time is of the essence. This is where we draw the curtain on beyond the headlines. We shall wait to see the outcome of the proceedings in the National Assembly to know whether they will approve of the proclamation of state of emergency in Rivers State. Now, if you like this video, do not hesitate to hit the like button, make your comments, share this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more exciting topics and stories. I am Tochi Grafa, and I have Ibrahim Umawasi. Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
All right, see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.